Harry, riddle me this. What is vibrant, exciting, and fills up a long weekend?
Is it Steve McLaren's beautiful hair, Jack?
Well, that wasn't what I was thinking. Have another go.
Or is it sale on a garden centre? Because, oh my god, I just love plant pots and compost sales and all the garden gnomes!
Harry! The football natter! So, Harry, if you can get your head out of the garden centre for 1 second, right? Just for this episode, what are we going to talk about this week?
Oh, sorry, Jack, I was a little bit enchanted by the local garden gnomes. Anyway, well, we're going to be talking about the Champions League semi-finals, our European League roundup, and finally, our predictions for the Premier League fixtures.
Is Messi a god? Because quite frankly, what a free kick. It's got to be 30, 35 yards. And Liverpool are surely done and dusted now. So a couple of questions there. One, is Messi a god? And two, is it over for Liverpool?
Meh, he's a goat. I mean, he's on point. Like, his free kick was crazy. And just the way he plays is unlike any other player in history. He's just got skill in every department. I watched a Barcelona documentary recently, Jack. And players were just saying he has got everything that an attacker needs. Maybe except height. And he makes up for that because against Liverpool, he was just so good and he was playing at his full potential. And everyone seems to be saying that he's kind of having this second coming of his prime. Because obviously he did of the years before when there were obviously Neymar at the club and they were just so brilliant and they were winning everything. And it's almost like a second coming of that. And yes, to answer your question, he is a god. And second, is it done and dusted? Yep, it's done and dusted. There's no chance for Liverpool. They didn't even play bad. It's just Messi magic. And that's all it is. Messi magic.
Well, one criticism I do have to have of Liverpool is that I don't think they got close enough to him. I mean, Van Dijk, who we think really is the best centre-back in the world, and I think he marshalled him quite well at times, but I think other people let him down. And you say Liverpool were good, and they were good, but you could tell they were missing some big players. I thought they missed Firmino personally, and what he brings to the field to the team dropping back. And I think they massively missed Trent Alexander-Arnold. Because don't get me wrong, I love Joe Gomez, but I like Joe Gomez as a centre-back. As a right-back, defensively, he's fantastic, but offensively, he's just not as good as Trent Alexander-Arnold. He doesn't have that final ball, which Liverpool really needed. And I felt actually quite a lot Liverpool were just trying to walk it in. And you can see with Barcelona, the confidence and the free-flowing attacking football. I mean, we all knew the new camp was going to be a tough place to go. But we thought maybe, yes, if Liverpool could get an away goal, and God, they were close by when they hit the post. Literally a minute after Messi had scored that third. So, yeah, I'll probably agree with you and say it is done and dusted. I mean, yes, Anfield is a tough place to go on a European night, but Liverpool have got a lot of making up to do. Personally, I think if Liverpool can make it 3-2 on aggregate, I think that's respectable, and they'll bow out to who I think will be the champions.
Just going back to keeping tight to Messi, I think the reason why they didn't do that is I'll throw you back in history. Do you remember Barcelona versus Bayern Munich when Jerome Boateng got his ankles broken? I think that Klopp may have looked at games such as that and he thought, well, if you put them too tight to Messi, then he's just going to get right past you. He's going to leave the back line for dead. So they might have taken a more measured approach, but as you said, it still wasn't effective. But it just goes to show it doesn't really matter what you do. He always finds his way around. And it's not just Messi, because the whole team were brilliant. Luis Suarez, what a game he had. The whole team operates well. You've seen it throughout the whole season. There have been players who've stepped up, like Arthur, or you mentioned earlier, you think Semedo's a good right back. There have been players who've stepped up to make sure this team goes to the next level. But Liverpool, of course, getting to a semi-final 2 years in a row is very good, not to mention the fact they're still challenging for that Premier League title. Obviously, they've got a massive game coming up at the weekend. But how about the other semi-final?
Well, Tottenham Ajax. I mean, Ajax away form has been absolutely incredible this season. They've beaten Juventus away from home. They've beaten Real Madrid away from home. That's just naming two. They have actually been just out of this world. They really have. And that's why I felt before the game Tottenham didn't have a chance really against Ajax. I actually thought some of the football Ajax played was incredible, and I mean, I'm hoping you're going to talk about this in a minute, but until Musa Sissoko came on, Tottenham didn't look like they wanted to be in the game, and Ajax exploited that. And, what I quite liked was actually the build-up to the game, when Pochettino said that Ajax had longer to prepare, and then the Ajax manager came out and said, yeah, well, you get like 200 million in Premier League money. How, who's got the unfair advantage here? And actually, what that does to me is just promotes how well Ajax are doing and how the whole club is run. It's just right, and it's showing that you don't need to spend hundreds of millions of pounds to succeed. You just need a team which fits the manager's ethos and the way the manager wants to play and gives everything for their manager and for their club. And the Ajax fans, you can see how much they appreciate this. This team is taking them on a journey they didn't think they had a chance in the start of the season. And I predict Ajax to go all the way, and a Barcelona-Ajax final, the Johan Cruyff derby, and a Barcelona-Ajax derby would be two incredibly fantastic footballing teams, head-to-head, battling, both wanting the biggest major honour in world football, bar the World Cup. I think it would be incredible. So, what do you make of that Tottenham-Ajax semi-final?
Well, one thing I've got to say, I've seen a lot of Tottenham fans and a lot of football fans saying that this was an embarrassment. And honestly, I couldn't disagree more. Make no mistake, this Ajax team has got world-class players in it. It's got players who, in the future, will be world-class. And it is a team that are, without question, one of Europe's best right now. There is no embarrassment about this at all for Tottenham. Yes, Ajax brought just 4,000 fans to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and they were at home, and there's some idea that this is going to be the new fortress, but that team is just so full of talent, and when they've got the ball at their feet, they're almost unstoppable, as Tottenham felt in the first half without Musa Sissoko. And you saw Van der Beek just absolutely just pile his way through the defence, and, it was a kind of sloppy goal for the Tottenham defence, in a sense. Like, their line was weak, and they really let him get in behind, but when Sissoko came on, Tottenham really gained momentum. They had more possession after the full 90 minutes. And they were just showing a lot more fight. They were getting forward more. They were creating chances. But it really wasn't enough because Ajax just have so much flair. You're looking at players like Frenkie de Jong. Or even at the back, they're so solid, like De Ligt. And it's just a really well-composed team with experience in Blind and Schöne and with youth. They've got some of the best youth in the world. Honestly, I have to say, I think this is almost impossible for Tottenham to come back in, because I just can't imagine them going to the Amsterdam Arena and turning it around. I just can't picture that. It would have to be an amazing performance, and all of their top players will need to be at their peak, especially Heung-min Son.
But without Harry Kane, I think you're asking a lot. Yes, Heung-min Son, don't get me wrong, has really stepped up in Harry Kane's absence, but I still don't see him as being that good enough player to really kind of push Ajax to the boundaries, especially with De Ligt at the back. But you mentioned some fantastic players here, Harry. What is their future going to be? Because surely any big European club is going to look at Ajax and go, yeah, all right, we'll have him. And, Van der Sar came out last week and said, we want to keep this Ajax squad together for as long as we can. But, I think as soon as like a £60 million bid comes in, for a team that only gets £10 million from the Eredivisie every year and has to rely on player sales to really kind of and their owners to fund the club, is it really feasible for them to turn down like an £18 million fee? I mean, De Jong's already going to Barcelona, but surely there's going to be eyes at De Ligt, and there's going to be eyes at Van der Beek and Ziyech, and to be fair to Tadic, I don't think Tadic will move simply because of his age. And I think at 29 going on 30, not many people are going to want to invest like 30 million in that kind of player. But, this is not to say that Ajax have to sell their players. They very well might keep on to them and say, look, we got this far last year, let's go for it again. Let's use the money that we get from the De Jong sale and invest it wisely and go for the Champions League again. So, where do you kind of see the future of this Ajax team?
I think whether you're a fan or not, it's going to be broken up. The team is going to break up. Onana interest from Man United. He's a really consistent goalkeeper. Van der Beek, you've got interest from Real Madrid. De Jong's already at Barca. De Ligt will probably go to Barcelona. And Tagliafico, he has interest from all of the top clubs because he's one of the best left backs in the world right now. And it's just real shame. If you're an Ajax fan, that's got to be really disappointing because you finally got those world beaters in your team, and then they're all going to be leaving after just one season of greatness. I think if they win the Champions League, it'd be really nice though, because then they've reached their peak already, and they've already won the best club competition available. And then if they could top that off with winning the Eredivisie, of course, they've got to oust PSV on the same amount of points right now. That would be crazy. To win the league and to win the Champions League, and then the team breaks up, that would be fine, surely, because then you've achieved everything you want.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you there. This Ajax team, but I think it's the youngest average age squad for this stage of the Champions League. I think the average age is like 24, 25.
Yeah,
So it's fantastic to see some young players really lighting up this competition. David Neres, especially, it would not surprise me if he got a move to someone like Man United, a young promising player. He's a little bit. He reminds me a little bit of Anthony Martial when he was kind of up and coming at Monaco. He's kind of got that kind of quick on the ball, fantastic dribbling ability, and can finish. And maybe he will get a move in the summer as well. And so we move on to the second topic this week, which is our roundup from the big European leagues. Now, Harry, you're a quarter Italian man. Tell us about the Serie A this season.
It's been terrible. It's literally been so bad. Juventus ran away with it. They've had the league title for like weeks now. They're on 89 points compared to second place Napoli's 70. So just 19 points ahead. And it's not just been terrible because of that. You've seen some of the top teams just play really disappointing football. I'm looking at Lazio, 8th place, and I've watched some of their games. And before the season started, I expected a lot. Milan, I've watched some of their season when I was AC Milan. When I was in Rome, I watched them play a couple of times on TV, like full matches. And I just looked at it. I was like, how did this used to be one of the great teams? I just thought these guys are just not. They're just not up to standards, and they've really slipped. They're 7th. You're looking at teams like Torino who have overtaken them, but one team really sticks out to me, and that's Atalanta. And I've watched a bit of them this season, especially their star striker Duvan Zapata, and he has been a beast up front. He's got pace, he's got power, he's got strength, and he scores a lot of goals. And I'll be honest, it's not a surprise that they're actually doing so well if you watch their performances. Now, I'd like to also shout out Spal from Ferrara. Of course, they've had a really interesting season because they've beaten Juventus, they've beaten Roma, they've beaten Lazio. They've taken down some of the big boys, and they're just one of those teams who you never know what you're getting. And actually, for them to stay in Serie A for a second consecutive season is really big for them because they don't have a lot of money, and they do run with players such as Floccari, who's almost 40 years old now, and he's still scoring for them. So, yeah, not being the best season. And of course, you've seen some clubs really slip in quality. But for it to change next season, you just need to see a lot of investment. And other than maybe Inter Milan, I can't see another team investing that kind of money.
Now, looking at that league table, AC Milan in 7th. That's disappointing. Isn't it? The past of that club has been absolutely incredible, and to see them where they are now is just theoretic. It's an abomination. It really is. But what we're seeing in Serie A teams at the minute is we're seeing quite a few good young players coming up. Now, to mention two in particular, you've got Lucas Paqueta at AC Milan, who could well take them back to greatness. Because this young Brazilian attacking midfielder can play out wide as well. He reminds me a little bit of a young Neymar in the fact that he loves getting on the ball, driving at people, and he's got a very good eye for goal. And I think that is only going to get better. But another player is Zanziolo at Roma. Now, I don't know where these guys come from. You might be able to tell me more. I don't know where these guys come from, but there's one clip of a goal on YouTube, and he literally sits two defenders and the goalkeeper on the floor and just chips it over the head. And I don't know who this guy is, but all I know is that you can just tell he's going to be one of those players which in a couple of years is going to be lighting up the Champions League. Surely he's the man to take Roma to Champions League final in a few years' time.
Niccolò Zaniolo is an incredible young player. This season he has lit up Serie A, and even when he made his full debut in the Champions League, you were looking at a player who was hungry and he was determined, and he's got skill and he's got pace and he's got great shooting ability. He can finish. As you just mentioned, we've seen some great goals from him already, and I really like Zaniolo's style of play. I think he brings something a little different. You look at another Italian prodigy. You mentioned Paqueta, he's had a good season. Another guy I'd love to mention, he plays for Cagliari, and it's Barella. I think he's really good. He's a centre midfielder, and he can do box-to-box. He can be more attacking. He can hold the defence. He's very versatile. And when you watch him for the Italian national team, he's really got it on lock. He's really coming up through the ranks. He's getting a lot of support over in his home country, and I think he's a real prodigy as well. You've seen the likes of Arsenal target him. I think he'll probably get a move in summer, but if not, maybe in January. And yeah, as you said, we've seen some really good young players come up, just to mention Suso as well.
So you mentioned that Arsenal are interested. Is he the next Aaron Ramsey for Arsenal?
Well, hopefully he wouldn't be as injured. And I'd hope that he'd be a little bit better than Aaron Ramsey, because although he had his great moments, you're looking at someone who needs to be a midfield master. They need to be a maestro. And I think Barella could do that. He's got many different abilities. And I think that if they're looking for someone to take them to that next level, he could be that. You could see a really young midfield. You've got Guendouzi, you could have Barella, and if Arsenal can really strengthen over the summer, I genuinely think they can be a threat in the 2019-2020 season.
Okay, so moving on to the second big European league we're going to discuss, and that is the Bundesliga. And what drama it has been in the Bundesliga this season. Borussia Dortmund were leading. They were 5-7 points ahead. They were smashing it. We all thought, yes, they're going to do it again. They're going to beat Bayern. The Bayern's awful defence in October and November. We thought, yes, finally, somebody to knock them off the perch. Oh, Bayern are top again, aren't they? But don't worry, all hope is lost. For those wanting Borussia Dortmund to do it, they are 2 points behind, and there are 3 Bundesliga games left. I mean, to be fair to Bayern, they smashed Dortmund 6-0 in their home game. I mean, we are talking an absolute takedown. Lewandowski at the heart of that as well. No surprises there. And if we just look at some of the stats, so Bayern Munich have scored 80 goals this season and only conceded 30. Now, a goal difference of 50 is just incredible. So, for Dortmund to win the league, they've got to get more points. A draw isn't going to be enough. And so Borussia Dortmund, the hope is not lost yet, but I think they really need to win all 3 remaining games. But make no mistake, Bayern are probably going to do the same. But one special mention is Eintracht Frankfurt. They are 4th again. And Leipzig, who were 6th or 7th when we last talked about the Bundesliga, have risen up. And the team, which is going to be taken over by Julian Nagelsmann from Hoffenheim in the summer, is 3rd. And so, is the only way up for Leipzig now?
I mean, looking where they were a season or 2 ago, it should be. Because we were talking about a team who many thought would be long-time challengers of Bayern Munich. Now, this season hasn't quite been that. They're on 65 points to Bayern's 71, with only actually 2 games compared to Bayern's 3. And I think that they really need to be on the up. They need to sign some more players, definitely. You have a few inconsistent performers in there. I think more people thought Bruma would be a bit stronger than he is. And Timo Werner, of course, is always a great outlet up front. But they do need that little bit more. And the new coach, obviously, will have to bring that firepower to them next season. But Bayern and Borussia Dortmund, what a fight we have on our hands. Borussia Dortmund should be first. They should be up there. They should be safe. They should really be thinking about winning that title in 3 games' time. But they've lost control, and Bayern are back on top. And I expect Bayern to win it. They're experienced winners. They're serial winners. And they're cold and composed. And I fully expect them to win their remaining games. And with that massive goal difference, I'm sure that they're going to surge to victory. Some other teams have done well. They've come at the table. We mentioned Leipzig. Fortuna Dusseldorf have, revived their season a little bit. They were fighting relegation before. And Eintracht, as you mentioned, really impressive achievement. And even they're in the Europa League semi-finals. That's huge for them. And they were decent against Chelsea. I think they'll probably get knocked out now. But to get to the semis was really good achievement. Luka Jovic being an incredible player. You've got Haller, who's been a great player. And overall, it's just been a strong season for them.
Well, you mentioned Luka Jovic there. They have signed him permanently now. And this guy, he scores goals, he sets up goals. Him and Haller are such a deadly combination. Because Haller being 6 foot, I think he's 6'3", 6'4", he provides that aerial threat and that ability to allow Jovic to get in behind and, flick it on and hold it up, play it around the corner. So that combination, and Jovic kind of drops deep sometimes, spreads it out wide, and the ball goes into Haller. He's got all this space in the box. As a partnership together, they work fantastically together. But don't forget Rebic, the Croatian, who had such a good World Cup. He's also got something like, he's got a crazy amount of assists, double digits for assists, double digits for goals this season. Fantastic play, and attacking-wise, Frankfurt have been incredible. And at the back, Kevin Trapp, a goalkeeper who we all thought had died at PSG. We thought his career was starting to crumble, but he's gone to Frankfurt and he's reigniting himself, reinvented himself as a goalkeeper. And, there is hope for Frankfurt and especially Leipzig in the future. And before we move on, we'll just bring in the news that David Wagner, Harry's favourite man from Huddersfield Town, has been appointed the manager of Schalke. Schalke, who are 15th in the Bundesliga and are looking like they will have to play Stuttgart in the relegation playoff. They're not doing well at all this season. We all thought they would, at least be mid-table. We're talking top 10, but, they're sitting there in 15th and it's not good enough for them. And maybe David Wagner is the man to take them back and challenge for European football in the Bundesliga. But we will move on to our third and final big league, and that is La Liga. Harry, what do you have to say?
I don't like this league. I've never really been a massive fan of La Liga. And Barcelona have dominated, I've got to say. We talked about Magic Messi, the god, as you called him. And of course, they've won the title already. They've 83 points compared to Atletico's 74 in second place. So that 9 point, that's big, Real Madrid, disappointing season, but still managed to get in third place. That's pretty good. They got 65 points. And considering where they came from, I think that's a decent end to the season. I've got to be honest. But then again, it was Barcelona's league. You saw certain players come up. You saw Arthur Melo in the midfield. Sergio Busquets has had another consistent season. You got players like Jordi Alba's done well, Samuel Umtiti. And of course, they got the 3 men up front who always perform, Usman, Suarez and Messi. And even ter Stegen started to be called one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So, great season for Barca. You saw Getafe get to 4th. Don't really know how that's happened because Sevilla started the season very, very well, but they've fallen down. It's been an interesting season. Spain, of course, is the outlet of many Champions League winners, and we probably will see Barcelona get to that final and try and do the same.
You say that it's okay for Real Madrid, but 65 points in a La Liga season so far. 3 games still to go, yes, but 65 points and losing 10 games as well. That's not good enough for Real Madrid, and you can see why. We all know what's coming, don't we? We all know that now that Zidane's back, Real Madrid are going to go and spend £400 million in the summer. They're going to buy Hazard and Mbappe, all the best players in the world. Probably re-sign Fat Ronaldo and Beckham. They are desperate. That is why they brought Zidane back, because they are desperate for success. Real Madrid need immediate success, and that's why they just keep buying the biggest players. But, for me, they've got to invest in in younger players. You've got to do what Barcelona did years ago when they invested in the youngsters. That was Messi, that was Iniesta, that was Xavi. They signed, and that was Piqué. They didn't sign them when they were established players, and they meant that they stayed at the club for years as they repaid them for the faith that the club put into them. And I just think with Real Madrid, their only policy is buy good players now, spend millions later when they're not good enough anymore. I mean, disappointing this season has probably been Luka Modric. Hasn't really lived up to that World Cup at all, and maybe that really was his last big outing on the world stage, because in the Champions League they weren't good, and obviously in La Liga he hasn't been able to help them really push Barcelona for that La Liga title. But great credit has to be given to Simeone and Atletico Madrid. Obviously, we all know the fantastic players they've got in Griezmann and Oblak and and Partey, and they've got youngsters like Hernandez at the back, and to be fair, we have to get Simeone for what he's done. But what maybe is the next step for Atletico Madrid in kind of pushing for a La Liga title again? Because you've got Godin who's hitting 34. These players aren't gonna be world class for much longer. How do Atletico Madrid progress from here and grab a La Liga title?
It's a good question. I don't know if they can, unfortunately. And you already mentioned why. And you said because Real Madrid will try and just put together a new group of Galacticos. They've already struggled so much this season, and trust me, they don't want to struggle again. And they will do anything to ensure that it won't happen. And they could be ruthless. They could take out long-standing members of the team like Karim Benzema or even Luka Modric, as long as it means that they're going to challenge and win that title next season. And when you look at what Barcelona already have, you've got to be Atletico Madrid. Look at that, thinking, well, what can we do? It is the only way they can do it is just through coaching excellence, and they're lucky to have Simeone. And it will just be players reaching their potential. Thomas Lemar has done nothing this season, and he was a massive prodigy at Monaco. Antoine Griezmann, of course, great player, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem to go that extra bit for me. And then it's that young defense. Of course, they got Jimenez and they've got Theo Hernandez and Lucas Hernandez, sorry, and they just really need to make sure they get the full potential if they want to challenge. It's going to be tough. Atletico looking into the future. Of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona will probably be fighting again next season, but it'll be interesting to see the outcome.
Okay, and so we move on to our previews for this weekend, and so we move back to England, hop on a plane from Spain, and we join the Premier League once again. So, there is already one fixture today, and that's Everton-Burnley. 17 minutes in as we're recording this, and it's Everton 1, Burnley 0. Richarlison with the goal, and the Toffees are going for European football. Is this the moment? Is this the game which kind of puts them closer to that dream, because they've got Watford and Wolves on their backs fighting for it as well?
No, the dream's over. Wolves will do it. I have no doubt Wolves will do this. They will get 7th.
But what about Leicester? You don't think Leicester and their surge under Brendan Rodgers are going to get European football?
No doubt in my mind. I think Wolves they're set up well. They're in 7th already. They're on 54 points. And yes, Everton, as it stands, would be just one behind that. But they have the advantage. They have the games in hand. And if you just look ahead, the kind of fixtures they've got one or two winnable fixtures. I think Wolves are so strong this season. Everton, of course, have been on their heels and they have improved. But after that Christmas period, I think it's just not been enough to recover.
So how do you see this fixture ending? For me, Everton-Burnley. Burnley safe from relegation now. So well done for Sean Dyche, because at times it looked nervy and it looked like they could end up going back to the Championship. But maybe this is now kind of the kick up the backside that Sean Dyche wanted, and maybe now they're gonna next season they're gonna invest in the squad in the summer and they'll get a solid mid-table finish in the Premier League. But for me, I think Sean Dyche is going to turn it around in this game. Everton 1, Burnley 1 for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Burnley do need to invest that a little bit more, bring in some new players. In fact, keep investing in youth, because Dwight McNeil has had a stunning season for them. And if they keep doing that and they bring in new players, you could be looking at a mid-table Burnley next season. I agree. I think they're probably going to try and turn it around. It's going to be close because, of course, Everton are on fire. But I'm going to agree. I'm going to go 1-1.
Bournemouth Tottenham is the first game of Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. Wow, what a game it was for Bournemouth last weekend. 3-3 against Southampton. You do not get games like that regularly, and it's as a neutral, it's just incredible to see. But against Tottenham, do we think Bournemouth are going to hold out for another draw? Do you think they're going to nick a win? Callum Wilson is back firing for Bournemouth. Do we, Harry Kane missing. Heung-min Son still in good form. Lucas Moura in good form for Tottenham. Is this Tottenham side just kind of too good for Bournemouth to hold out against?
Absolutely not. Bournemouth are capable of doing this. You said Lucas Moura's in good form. Yeah, he's had some good games, but the man's inconsistent. He always brings bursts of energy. He always brings commitment, but he doesn't always deliver that final ball. He doesn't always deliver those goals. And you're looking at a Bournemouth side who have got some great players in there. Ryan Fraser has been one of the players of the season. David Brooks has been one of the young players of the season. And honestly, I think they've got enough. They've got enough to hold out. Tottenham are in bad form, in my opinion. And they really need to start building it up for this second leg of the Ajax game. So they really, really need the win. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to. Bournemouth are at home. And I think they're going to get something out of this game. I'm going to go 1-1 once again.
Now, for me, there's never just one game in a game, never one goal in a game like this. And so I'm going to have to agree. I think I agree with everything you've said. And, Bournemouth safe. Disappointing second half to this season for Bournemouth. They're going to want to make sure that next season they're a bit more consistent. Try and push for that top 10, top 9, 8 spot. Maybe grab a European qualifying place. So for me, it's going to be Bournemouth 2, Tottenham 2. And moving on to West Ham, the team which beat Tottenham last week. What a goal from Antonio. What a celebration like that. Literally thrusting West Ham into the lead. So, their game against Southampton, Ralph, it looks like he's safe. And they are safe.
Oh, yeah.
And doesn't it look beautiful to see that Ralph has come to a dire Southampton. Southampton on the brink of going down the football pyramid. And he's brought them back almost from the dead. And they have survived. He's turned Ward-Prowse into the next Frank Lampard. What a job he's done. Genuinely, Ward-Prowse has never looked more dangerous on the edge of the box since Ralph has been in charge. We call him Wreck-It Ralph for a reason, because he's absolutely wrecking it at Southampton.
6 words, listen. Shane Long is better than Ronaldo. He scored more goals than him this month. There is a reason why this man is Player of the Month. He's the Irish sex god. He's amazing, he's gorgeous, he's incredible, and he's scoring left, right, centre. He's an absolute beast. And don't make any mistake, Southampton are going to win this game. They are going to go to the London Stadium. Like, what kind of a name is that? They're going to go to the London Stadium and give them a smack. You know what the score's going to be, Jack? It's going to be 3-0 to Southampton.
Do you know what? I wouldn't disagree with you. I genuinely wouldn't. Yeah, go on. West Ham 0, Southampton 3. Now, Wolves, Fulham. What the hell has happened to Fulham? They're literally, if you look at a form guide, they're up there with Manchester City and Liverpool. What has happened? Genuinely, Scott Parker's got a hell of a chance at the Fulham job next season. Tom Cairney has just signed a new deal till 2024 at Fulham. Now, while I think he's been poor this season, Tom Cairney is a fantastic player in the Championship. And don't get me wrong, Fulham will be fighting to go straight back up if they keep a majority of that squad. But against Wolves, I think this is too much. I think Jota is going to have a field day. Raul Jimenez, he just goes on and on and on. And, at the back, Ryan Bennett, Connor Cody, Bolly, just Doherty. For me, this is too much for Fulham, even for Ryan Babel on his own. And so, I'm going to go for a Wolves win. I'm going to say, tough one, 2-0 Wolves.
Ryan Babel has actually been better than Neymar this season, so I'll just put it out there. Hasn't he been amazing? What a signing. And if they can, I don't know if they will, but if they can keep a hold on to him for the Championship, he's the kind of player who goes down there and he just wrecks the Championship defences. He's been unbelievable. There's no wonder why he's got in that Dutch national team, even with relegated side like Fulham, and 3 wins on the row. And do you know, people say it's pointless, but this is not pointless at all. This is just showing that Fulham are capable of bouncing right back. You saw when Newcastle had do you remember when they had that strong finish after they were already relegated? It's the same thing. They're going to want to bounce back immediately. Yet, after 3 games in a row won, I think that this one is just too much because Wolves have so much firepower. You said they've got an amazing defence. Bolly, Cody, Doherty, Patricio and goal. They've got an amazing team. And I think they will be firing on all cylinders with the likes of Jimenez, who's had the best second half of the season you could ask for a striker, Jota, and of course an amazing midfield. It's got to be a Wolves win. They've got to keep fighting, and I'm sure that they're going to get that European qualification. I'm going to go with Wolves 2, Fulham 1.
Okay, Cardiff Crystal Palace. Now Cardiff need to beat Crystal Palace and beat Manchester United away. That's back-to-back Premier League games, and they haven't won at Old Trafford since 1954. But even if they were to win both those games, Brighton would have to pick up at least a point out of Manchester City and Arsenal to survive. So technically, it's still on for Neil Warnock. But if they lose at Palace, it's pretty much all over. Harry Arter is set to miss out. I think that's a big miss for them. And we all know how Cardiff have struggled to score this season. And as much as Mendes, Lang and Hoylett are trying, it's just the firepower just isn't there. And you've got to give credit to Neil Etheridge in goal and at the back. I think Morrison's also been, and Sol Bamba. They've been star players for them this season. But offensively, they've just really found it hard to break teams down, and that's been the downfall for Neil Warnock. But we love Neil Warnock here at the Football Night. We love him. Roy Hodgson's team, obviously, they've been safe for a while now. Some of their players are going to impress going into next season. Zaha's looking to get a move once again. And, he could well finally leave Selhurst Park this season and go to, see, I don't know, who could you see Zaha going to? It's such a weird one because, he's a player which isn't really going to fit in every single team up there in the top 6, top 7. So we'll see what comes of that in the summer. But in terms of this game, Cardiff Crystal Palace, I reckon it's going to be 1-1.
Interesting. Where would Zaha fit in? I think he'd have to go to Europe, really. Because there's no interest in the Premier League, especially with that ridiculous price tag of 80 million that I've heard thrown around. Massive for Cardiff. If they do win it and Brighton lose, that's 1 point. And if they could pull this off, it would be one of the greatest escapes that we've seen in recent. I'd love it. Wouldn't you love it? Brilliant. But I don't know. I think it's a big ask, and they can do Crystal Palace. They can beat Crystal Palace because they're inconsistent, and they've had some really good players. Like Milivojevic is a really good CDM. Wan-Bissaka, one of the best right backs of the season, hands down. But I really think Cardiff are going to do this. They've got so much desire at the moment, and they will want to prove that they can scrape through. And I'm actually going to go with the Cardiff win, 1-0.
Okay. Now the big game of Saturday evening is Newcastle-Liverpool. Newcastle, who under Rafa Benitez has made St James's Park a fortress, a stronghold, almost a guaranteed win, even against the likes of Manchester City. And if they can pull off a performance like they did against City and beat Liverpool, the title will surely be over for Jurgen Klopp. And so, my heart is in 2 places because I would love Newcastle to beat a team like Liverpool. Give, the fans on Tyneside something to scream and cheer at come the end of the season, considering they haven't got anything to play for. But on the other hand, I would love Liverpool to win and keep the pressure on City because I want somebody different to win the Premier League. I don't, as much as great credit has to be given to City for how they've performed this season, you just, as a football fan, I want to see it come down to the last day. I want to see, something different. I want to see, a team which plays good football like Liverpool do, and with young English players, British players like Liverpool do. I want to see them win a title. And so it's hard for me to predict this, but I am going to go with Liverpool, and I'm going to say a 1-0 scrape for Liverpool. at St James's Park.
This game is absolutely huge, and I think, unless you're a Liverpool or City fan, you're going to hope that Liverpool and City both win their games. And that's just because everyone is really enjoying this title race. It's going down to the wire, no matter what. And I really would love Liverpool to win this game, and Man City to win their game. I would love that, because this has been so exciting, and we haven't had this in a while. And you know what, I think Liverpool will win, because Newcastle, obviously, they have been strong at St James's Park. But when it comes to this point, you just have no other option than to win. And you're looking at a team who will want to bounce back from that really tough game against Barca. Really tough, because they did try their hardest, but got ousted. And I think they're just going to have to win this. It's got to be 2-0 to Liverpool.
Okay, and Harry, you're going to talk us through the games of Sunday and Monday in a little episode of quick fire previews.
So, we've got our 4 matches: Chelsea versus Watford, Huddersfield Town versus Manchester United, Arsenal versus Brighton Hove Albion, and Manchester City versus Leicester City. And I'll give a sweet little description of each. So, Chelsea Watford obviously going for that European place. Chelsea obviously trying to hold on to that 4th place spot. Can they do it? Huddersfield Town versus Manchester United. Huddersfield are down, but Manchester United also want a chance for that top 4. Arsenal versus Brighton. They need something out of this game if they want to secure Premier League football next season. Arsenal, another team fighting for that top 4. And finally, Manchester City versus Leicester City. One of the biggest games of the season so far, with one going for European and one going for the title. So, I'm going to say Chelsea 2, Watford 1. Huddersfield Town 0, Manchester United 1. Arsenal 2, Brighton 0. And Manchester City 3, Leicester City 2.
Oh, I like it. No, I can't speak that fast, so I'm going to miss the description and just go straight for the quickfire preview. So, it's tough. Right, okay. Chelsea 2, Watford 0. Huddersfield Town 0, Manchester City 1. Arsenal 3, Brighton 1. Manchester City 1, Leicester City 1. And we end, I think, what a shocker. The implications, that 1-1. We will leave you with that. What do you think? Let us know. Email footballnatter@gmail.com to catch the latest 3 episodes. Check out our pages on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube, where you can find all episodes of the Football Natter to date. Episode 1 all the way through to this series. Series 3, Episode 2. We will be back next week, where we will be previewing the final round of Premier League fixtures. Will the title essentially be decided? Will Cardiff look like they are done and dusted? We'll find out next week. Have a great weekend, because it's bye from Harry.
Goodbye.
It's bye from me. Goodbye.